Hello everybody and welcome to a very special video here. I'm Autistic Lizard Pro and I'm here to make this video to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the Big G and King of the Monster himself, Godzilla. And can you believe it's been 70 years since the King of the Monster himself has arrived in the year 1954, 70 years ago. And to this day, and all of our fans are still a fan to him to this day. And Godzilla has been everywhere, in stores and online shopping and merchandise. Godzilla has been a hit everywhere since Japan and even in America and even at a rise at conventions, like especially G-Fest that I've been going there since 9 years ago, and since I first discovered G-Fest and since I'm making this very special celebration video here to talk about Godzilla himself, so I will be talking about 3 topics here, including a bonus topic. So to honor this celebration, so let's get to the topics here. Topic 1: How I first discovered Godzilla. Well, this story goes way back to my childhood days, like when I was just like 4 or 5 years old during that time. I mean, how I first discovered Godzilla for the first time. I mean, first of all, how do I discover my very first Godzilla movie? Well, my first Godzilla movie I ever watched was the classic first American 1998 film here, the one starring Matthew Broderick. I remember that my dad used to have this movie on VHS back in the days when after the movie was first released, and then it was released on VHS. And first of all, I wasn't too crazy about this film, and well, back then I didn't watch it all the time. I mean, during my lifetime, before I was really into Godzilla, I was really into dinosaurs, and I was really into dinosaur films like Land Before Time and Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and other kinds of dinosaur films that I was really into. I used to collect dinosaur toys back in the days when I was 5 years old, this first American Godzilla film was my very first Godzilla film I ever watched that my dad used to have on VHS. I mean, if it weren't for my dad who bought this on VHS back in the days, I would never know who Godzilla is. But this one, my very first one I watched, doesn't count because it is the first American Godzilla film that was ever made that time. I mean, during my time. I mean, so I will get to the good part of how I first discovered my first Japanese Toho Godzilla film, and this is the good part. And I remember back in the day that I already explained to this before in the Return of Godzilla panel at G-Fest a few months ago, that I first discovered my first Toho Godzilla film, and I'll explain it again, that I remember after I moved to another area in my old hometown, I went to my old local video store in Illinois that used to exist, but before it was replaced by just pizza. And I remember I used to ride my bikes at my local video store all the time with my mom and my sister. And when we got to that video store, I mean, I just saw a shelf that has the classic '98 Godzilla film, but next to it, I discovered my very first Toho Godzilla film I ever watched was this, the Godzilla 1985, the Raymond Burr version. And yeah, when I saw this cover, I was like, wow. I thought this movie is like a sequel to this one, but I was wrong. This is the actual VHS tape that I used to rent a lot at my old local video store, and this table is from New World Videos themselves, and so yeah, this is a classic VHS cover tape, and I used to rent this tape a lot, and this film is what really got me into Godzilla. And after I watched it, I was like, wow. He was like a big dinosaur. It's like a cross between a dinosaur and a dragon, and yeah. So, and I feel like I like this Godzilla more than this one, and yeah, and it's such a classic tape. I always keep this in my shelf for a memory, and that's the. But this film hasn't really got me into Godzilla in the fan community just yet. That I remember that this wasn't the only Japanese Godzilla film there is, and I just noticed, like, first of all, like, I remember, like, on Christmas Day, I remember waking up on Christmas morning that my Santa used to give me presents back in the days when I was a kid, and I remember that Santa gave me my very first game console set of Nintendo GameCube, and I remember that Santa gave me a bunch of GameCube games, including my very first Godzilla video game, Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, and it has a lot of monsters in it, and I didn't know there was a game, and that game is really got me into Godzilla even more. And if it weren't for the video game, then I would never know there are more Godzilla films out there. And I did notice there were more Godzilla films, and that's where I start to try to discover more Godzilla films at some video stores and all of that, and including my second Godzilla film I ever watched was Godzilla vs. Mothra, the Heisei version. And so yeah, and so that's so far how I first discovered Godzilla and how I joined the fan community. So since we finished this topic, like, let's get to the next topic.
Topic 2, my top 10 favorite films.
So in this topic, I'll be showing a list of my top 10 favorite Godzilla films that are from the Shona, Heisei, and Millennium era. That's some of these I already did a podcast episode about from the past year. And so here is my top 10 favorite Godzilla films.
Number 10, Son of Godzilla. Number 9, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Number 8, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Number 7, GMK. Number 6, King Kong vs. Godzilla. Number 5, Godzilla vs. Destroyer. Number 4, Godzilla vs. Mothra. Number 3, Godzilla Final War. Number 2, Godzilla 1985. And number 1, Ebirah, Horror of the Deep.
So that's the list of my top 10 favorite Godzilla films, and the reason why Ebra, Horror of the Deep is one of my favorite Godzilla films of all time, and also, aka number one favorite, is because that I already explained this in my thought video of Ebra, Horror of the Deep, but why it's my favorite? It's because I just love the film, and I just took place on a tropical island. It has the Infant Island natives there, and then they're kidnapped by the Red Bamboo, and then some heroes are freeing them, and then the bad guys have a giant sea monster who is under their control, and it kills the natives who are trying to escape, and they try to have Godzilla over to help, and this one is supposed to be like a Kong film, but they replace it with Godzilla. And I just love the moment when Godzilla just stares at Dio, the Infant Island native, and that's one of my favorite moments in that film. It's almost give it like a little Kong moment there. And so, yeah, since I finished this topic, I'll be talking about topic 3 next.
Topic 3, my Godzilla President Bandai figure review.
So here's my favorite topic here, that I'll be talking about my classic Godzilla figures of the suitmation and the CGI designs from each classic film throughout the years from 1954 to this year, today, of 2024. So let's get to the figures. Up next, first we have the one that started it all. It is the 1954 classic Godzilla from the movie Gojigeek and the American cut Godzilla King of the Monsters. Now this is the new remodel paint design of the classic memorial box figure of it, and it said that it's not as black, and they just repainted it a little white grayish kind of looking, and they repainted the dorsal fins too. So that's it for this figure. Now, before I get to the rest, I'm not going to be reviewing like every design looks of each figure here like I did of my unboxing video. I'm just going to show you of each figure that I've been collecting for years and all. So next, that I have the 1955 Godzilla from Godzilla Rise Again, where he fights his first enemy, Anguirus, and you know, now this is the memorial box version, and it's not the newest version. Next, we have the 1962 Godzilla from King Kong vs. Godzilla, and that was released in Japan and in the following year in America, and that was released by Universal. And I love this figure, and I love his face. It kind of looks like a cross between an alligator and a frog, sort of looking of his face. Yes, this is a cool figure. Next, we have the 1964 Godzilla from both films, Mothra vs. Godzilla and Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. And I did a review of this figure in my G-Fest collection review video that I did months ago. And yeah, and this is the new model version of it, and yeah, that was released this year, and it's really cool. Next up, we have the 1965 and 66 Godzilla figure from Invasion of Astro Monster, and one of my favorites, Ebra, Horror of the Deep, which was used in 2 films and for some water scenes in other future films. And they did replace the head in Ebra Horror of the Deep, and they attached the original head to the 64 suit for the Ultraman series as Gyrus. So that's it for this figure. Next we have the 1967 Godzilla here from Son of Godzilla. And I know some fans says they don't like this suit here, and because they say it looks kind of weird and ugly looking suit, but one of my thoughts about this suit, it was all right. I mean, it's not as bad or anything. It just looks all right, and I know they did use this suit in Godzilla vs. Gigan for the water scene. So that's it for this figure. Next, we have the classic 1968 to 72 Godzilla figure here from Destroy All Monsters Attack, Godzilla vs. Hedorah, and vs. Gigan. And I know that people said that this is one of the most famous suits in the Shona era, and it's one of my favorite too. And I just hope that Bandai would do a repaint or remodel of this figure here in the future. That would be so cool. This year I got the Memorial Box version. Next we have the classic 1973 Godzilla here from Godzilla vs. Megalon. I just got this from last year. I think it was like, yeah, I got this from last year in the fall time, and this is a really cool figure that his mouth is closed and the dorsal fins and all that. Next we have the 1974 Godzilla, and this one was from Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and I just heard they just announced that they did release a remodeled and paint job version of this figure, and hopefully I will get the newest version someday, maybe after the holidays. And as you can see, I did Sharpie the Mechagodzilla mark here, because this is the fake Godzilla here. Next we have the 75 Godzilla here from Terror of Mechagodzilla, the last Shona era film, and I know this is kind of like the last figure I did, but it's that the head is remodeled again, and they really did remodel that. They really changed the head face expression of that same suit from both films. Yeah, this is a cool figure, and this is the new version. Up next, we have one of my favorite suits from all time from the first Heisei film. It is the 1984 Godzilla here from The Return of Godzilla, aka Godzilla 1985. That I have done a panel about it at G-Fest this year. And it is one of my favorite suits of all time, and this is the new figure version from the Memorial Box, and I also did got the Cybot figure version of it, but it's in my other room, and I don't want to compare it to this again. I mean, I did a review of that figure not too long ago. And up next we have the 1989 Godzilla to 1991 from Godzilla vs. Biollante and versus King Ghidorah. And I just love this figure here, and I know this figure kind of looks a lot like from King Ghidorah. But if you want to compare this to both films of Biollante and King Ghidorah, but but technically it is the same suit. It's that they remodel it in versus King Ghidorah. But this is a really cool figure. Next up, we have the 1992 to 1994 Godzilla here. And I know they keep updating these suits from each Heisei era, and I know some people say this is the same suit from versus Mothra and Mechagodzilla, and yeah, but whatever you want to call this figure was from, but well, to me, I think this figure is from Godzilla versus Mothra. And so next that we have the classic burning Godzilla here from Godzilla vs. Destroyer! I love that Cinemassacre's impression. And yeah, so yeah, this is a cool figure. I think this is the new repaint job version of it. And if you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that I got this figure from last year, or I think this is like a repainted model version. So next we have the CGI, the first American Godzilla. It's Zilla from Godzilla 1998, the film that has Matthew Broderick in it. And I know that this is the new figure, and this one was from Godzilla Final Wars, and is Zilla here. But to me, I kind of like this figure for the classic 98 film. Yeah. But Zilla is still part of the family. Next up, we have the classic Millennium era suit. It is got the 1999 Godzilla from Godzilla 2000. It's one of the most popular ones from the early years, and when the film first came out in America the year after the original Japanese was released. And yeah, and this is a classic suit, and all the dorsal fins are purplish, and the skin is all greenish looking, and they use that same suit from Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. And next up, it is the 2001 Godzilla here from GMK, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. And I did a review of this figure a few weeks ago, and this figure is amazing and all that. They really did match the dorsal fins and the face, and it's much better than the Playmade version that they made years ago. Next, we have the 2002 to 2003 Godzilla from Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla and Tokyo SOS. And this is one of my favorites here. And I'm glad that they released this figure that's the right size. And this is one of my favorite. Next, we have the very last suitmation from the last Millennium era film. It is the 2004 Godzilla from Godzilla Final Wars, the film that has Don Fry in it, who I met at G-Fest last year. And this is a really cool figure, and it is the newest version of it because the update of the mouth. And so that's it for the suitmation Godzilla figures here. So let's get to the CGI and animations of Godzilla figures. First up, we have the the very first MonsterVerse figure here is the 2014 Godzilla from the movie Godzilla, and I remember this was my first Godzilla film that I ever watched in theaters. And this is a really cool figure that, and I know the dorsal fins almost look similar to Zilla's, but it was like straight up and before it was updated. And next we have the we have the newest update of the MonsterVerse. It is the 2019 Godzilla from Godzilla King of the Monsters, as also from the MonsterVerse, and it is, and here's, I like this figure too, and they updated the dorsal fins, almost kind of give it more like a classic Shonen era Godzilla from '54, and they also did like I think they released a new model of this figure, but they repainted the dorsal fins as normal, like this figure here. It's not as glowy. Next, we have the 2024 Godzilla here from Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, and it is. I love this figure too, and his dorsal fins almost give it look like a Millennium era look to it, and I did do an unboxing video of it too back then, and so up next so we're back to the classic Japanese Godzilla here. Next, I have the 2016 Godzilla from Shin Godzilla, and one of my least favorite films. I mean, and I know some fans say this film, it was kind of boring to them, or it was okay. And this Shin Godzilla was one of the most was kind of popular for a little while before -1. So next up we have the anime trilogy Godzilla from the Netflix series from 2017 to 2018. It goes through in 2019. Correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, so and I gotta be honest, I think the anime trilogy is definitely my least favorite. I mean, it was all right. I mean, but I did have this figure that I first got it when the series first got released on Netflix. Next, we have the Godzilla Singular Point from another Netflix series. And I did watch the series, and then it's not as bad as the anime trilogy, and so yeah, this is from the anime series that Godzilla went through his evolution stage, and which it kind of gives a style of Titanosaurs and Varan, and I don't know, is this last form is what it was blue, and so next we have the classic CGI of Godzilla here from Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex, and the short film of Godzilla vs. Megalon's animated short film that was released last year, and yeah, this figure is definitely kind of related to the Heisei era Godzilla. So next, I have the 2021 Godzilla from Godzilla the Ride that is at a theme park in Japan that is with King Ghidorah and Rodan. I just wish I could go on that ride, and this figure kind of looks similar to the -1, but before that. And last but not least, it is the 2023 Godzilla -1 This is the blockbuster hit that won an Academy Award. And this is definitely one of my favorite figures. And I just hope that -1 will get a sequel, maybe for a title Godzilla -2 or something, but who knows. So that's all the Godzilla Suitmation and anime and CGI figures that I have here that I've been collecting. That's go from 1954 to 2024. I'm just glad my Godzilla President figures have been complete. And even though that Bandai has re-released some of the old figures, but they repainted and remodeled them to make them look better for an update. And to be honest, sometimes I always buy these newer versions because just for an update, and all that. And so yeah, that's all the figures I have here. Now let's get to the bonus topic. Now the question is, what are your thoughts about the King of the Monsters himself, Godzilla? What makes him your favorite kaiju, and what do you like about him, and how you first discover him? And well, if you want to share your thoughts by leaving in the comments down below, and here are some of video clips that one of my friends sent from one of my podcast episodes as a guest. They share their thoughts about Godzilla, and so enjoying a few clips of what they have to say.
Godzilla's always been the greatest inspiration in my life. He helped me become a tokusatsu dragon, and I love his design being Stegosaurus and Tyrannosaurus, a great hero and god to dinosaurs and reptiles.
The reason why I love Godzilla so much is because he is such a strong father figure, and also because he is someone who actually stands up for what is right.
What are my thoughts on Godzilla? Well, he's as important as he is today as he was back in 1954. He can be good, he could be evil, he can be the in-betweener, he can be wherever he wants to be, and that's what I love about him.
Why I like Godzilla is very hard to narrow down to just one thing. I guess you could say it's that sense of wonder that they bring that other genres just aren't able to do.
For what am I going to talk about for Godzilla for celebrate his 70th anniversary for this year? It's that I always love the way it depends on the version of Godzilla, whenever being a hero or a bad guy, that always depends on the fate for the character.
Hello, I'm Nate Marchand, a host of such podcasts as the Monster Island Film Vault and Henshin Power V3, and one of the things that I love most about Godzilla is the friendships that it has brought into my life.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Jacob from KaijuUnited.com. I want to highlight the Godzilla fan base. You guys are some of the most loyal and passionate fans ever. So happy Godzilla Day and long live the king.
Hey, this is Donald from the Sci-Fi Nerdz. Godzilla, I just want to say I love you and I thank you for everything you've meant to me. Thank you for an incredible, long journey full of great movies, great villains, great action. Thank you, and we love you.
Thank you, my friends, for sharing your thoughts about Godzilla and what you like about him. Now I would like to share my thoughts about the King of the Monsters. That Godzilla has always been remembered from my childhood of how I first discovered him and why I joined the fan community of him. And Godzilla is no ordinary monster. He is the icon of every Toho and Japanese history. And we'll always remember him when he first appeared in 1954, and 70 years ago. And Godzilla is the one who maybe discovered all of his films growing up, and he's also the one that makes me, that helps me discover some items and Bandai figures. And I'll never forget this, that Godzilla is the one who made some new friends at G-Fest. I mean, without G-Fest, I would never have made some new friends who are in the Godzilla fan community. And I thank Godzilla here, who helped my life better in the fan community, make some new friends, and that helped me discover some new events about him, and some other kaiju monsters and outside of his films. And that's why I like about Godzilla. He is the really the king of the monsters, and we thanked him for his appearance 70 years ago. And I mean, without him, we will never have any hobbies and about him and other monsters. So those are my thoughts about Godzilla, and thank you all for watching this very special celebration video of Godzilla. And I want to say to him, happy birthday, Godzilla. Long live the king.